Hello, DPS community. Welcome to the EDUCA DPS podcast, where we inform families and connect communities. My name is Javier Ibarra, your host of the EDUCA podcast in English. Today we have a repeat guest. We have Libby Malone. She is a nationally certified school psychologist here at Denver Public Schools and the current president of the Colorado Society of School Psychologists. What a treat for us today. Our topic is going to be school-based mental health services available here at Denver Public Schools. To start us off, let's welcome our guest. Libby, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having us back. We're excited to be here.
We are excited that you're back because this topic is so interesting and it's ever changing. You know, there's always updates for us. But I want to ask you, can you tell us, for the folks who have never seen you here before, how long have you worked for Team DPS, and what is the most gratifying part about your job?
Yeah, I've been with DPS for 10 years now. I started here as an intern, and I've been able to grow my career, which has been so great to see the changes both in the district but also in our department. So when I started, there was maybe 100 school psychologists and social workers, and now we're up to almost 400.
Wow.
And a lot of my job is focused on supporting those school psychs and social workers in buildings and making sure that we have qualified staff in buildings. So in terms of like most satisfying piece, I think just being able to work with the providers that are supporting students every single day and making sure that they feel like they can be successful in their work.
I appreciate you sharing that because we'll get into all of that great things for our topic today. But I want to give some quick facts to our audience about the importance of having our schools provide school-based mental health services. Schools are the top provider of mental health support and services for our youth. Recent national data shows that approximately 1 in 5 students meets the criteria for at least one mental health disorder, and at least 1 in 4 students is receiving mental health support at school. Denver Public Schools has a range of support to meet the social, emotional, and mental health needs of our students. These providers are all licensed by the Colorado Department of Education to provide and prevent intervention services to students here at school. School-based mental health staff can also be a great partner to support families in finding communities, services, and resources to meet the needs outside of the school building. Who are the school-based mental health providers here at Denver Public Schools? Libby, that is my first question.
Yeah, so the term school-based mental health provider in DPS really means school social workers and school psychologists. And these providers are specially trained and licensed to provide academic, behavioral, and mental health support to students in buildings.
And so we have both of them here at Denver Public Schools. Yeah. Is there an instance where we have both at the exact same school?
If you're lucky. Our school buildings are staffed based on principal kind of budgeting and like staff we have available. And so some of our schools have 1 full-time school psychologist. Some of them have a full-time school psychologist and social workers. Some of our larger high schools have 6 school psychologists and 4 social workers. So it can look very different, but in each building there is someone to provide services to students.
Wow, that's fantastic news for us because I know that access to mental health services can be a great barrier for some of our families. My next question for you is, what do school-based mental health providers do exactly here at DPS? Kind of give us maybe a day-to-day type of thing.
Yeah, so school social workers and school psychologists in DPS have very similar roles. So we are working to support students, teachers, families throughout the day. So a typical day could look like running a group for students who are maybe experiencing some challenges with emotional regulations, having an individual meeting with a student to talk about coping skills, maybe consulting with a teacher about how to implement social emotional learning into the classroom, calling a parent about attendance behaviors, so many different things that we can do to support students and staff in school buildings and then families at large.
Why do we offer that sort of services to our families? Why is that important?
Yeah, so our school social workers and school psychologists fulfill legal obligations around like IEPs and 504s and providing services for students, but really the whole goal is to make sure that students can be successful at school. And so to be successful at school, we want to make sure that they can show up and have food in their bellies and had a good night's sleep before, and if they have any sort of like nervous energy, they can talk to someone about it. And so beyond just, academics and grades, making sure that they can be healthy and happy at school to perform.
How do our mental health service providers support teachers in the classroom? What does that look like?
Yeah, so consulting with teachers is a major part of our job, whether it's making sure that a student's accommodations are being given in a classroom, or if there's a student that a teacher really needs some extra support with to make sure that they can get the academics that they need. That can look like a school psych or a social worker coming into the classroom and supporting a student, or doing some observations and meeting with a teacher later. But really our goal is to make those classroom teachers feel like they can be successful with all of our students.
And so with that, we're supporting the students, we're supporting the teachers. My next question is, who are the support providers in schools?
Yeah, so beyond school psychologists and social workers, there is a number of different support providers in schools. This could be a dean, a restorative justice coordinator, the classroom teacher, administrators, also counselors, nurses, and then some of our schools have school-based health clinics. So they have a nurse practitioner and another mental health provider from like Denver Health that can be in the building as well.
So, quick backstory. I was a student here at DPS, and I remember coming up through the school system, and there wasn't this type of support. And so I think how I want to highlight the work that you and your team is doing, and the great work that you're doing, because it's so noticeable, right? With the work, the mental health services that you all are providing, I think that our students are having more resources so that they can truly focus in their academics and then graduate, which is the ultimate goal here.
Yeah.
I want to ask, what are some behaviors parents might want to seek support from the school for, right? So I'll give you a scenario, right? There's a parent, they're seeing some different things about their school or their student, How does that alert them, right? Because sometimes you chalk it up to that's just normal teenage behavior. And so what is normal teenage behavior? What is normal student behavior? And what is something that we should honestly be looking for resources for?
Yeah, so school psychologists and social workers see students for a number of different reasons, whether it is anxiety, depression, other mental health challenges, or if a student is falling behind in classes and we want to help work with them on like organizational skills and being able to stay on top of their academics. What we would encourage parents to look for is major changes in behavior. Is your student crying more? Is your student reporting being more nervous about coming to school? That tummy ache that might not have like a medical reason behind it that happens every morning when you talk about going to school. So really being alerted to what their student is reporting to them, or if their student's not reporting things but they're noticing changes. Are they in their bedroom with their door closed more? Are they not hanging out with friends? Are they not interested in the hobbies and things that they've been interested in before? Like you said, some of those things are definitely part of like typical development, but if you're noticing things at a marked change for your student and you have concerns, we would really encourage parents to reach out to us, let us know what those concerns are, or if you're not sure, like, is this normal? Reaching out to someone at your school to get support for your student is something that we want parents to do.
I'm glad you said that, because my next question was, how can parents request to receive support for their student from a school-based mental health provider?
Yeah. We would encourage parents to reach out directly to the school psychologist and social worker in their building or whoever may be there. If they're unsure who that person is, reaching out to the classroom teacher or the administrator, and they can connect them to a provider. And the provider can work with the family to identify, is it services in schools that the student needs, or their community connections that would be more helpful.
I want to give our families a quick tidbit on how I actually find folks. So I also work for the school district, and sometimes I need to find like a counselor or a principal at a school. I just go straight onto the school website under staff or about, and I do a quick control F for control find, and then type in counselor or mental health or principal, and that'll give you usually their email, and then you can reach out to them. If not, you can always reach out. Quick, simple Google search will give you the main phone number to the office staff, and that will start your journey into finding mental health services. Libby, I want to ask, are there mental health resources within the Denver community, right? We talked about what's available for our students here at DPS, but are there resources within the Denver community that parents, families can also access? If so, who or what type?
Absolutely. DPS partners with a number of different community services. So Care Solace is a big one. That is a connection point for parents to go on and request mental health services, and they can connect you with different providers. Well Power, Jewish Family Services, Maria Drost, Denver Health. We have connections with all of those different community partners, and some of them have providers in our school buildings. So on top of the school-based mental health providers like school psychologists and social workers, your building may also have a licensed therapist that can see students during the school day if they need extra levels of support.
I want to ask, is there anything else you'd like to share about the services that you do, about something that parents might not know, a quick common fact about mental health, anything that you have for us before we go?
Yeah, I would just love to share with all parents that as we think about the new school year and maybe students changing schools, normalizing feelings about schools is a huge help for them. So your student might be excited to go back and see their friends, but maybe they're nervous about having a new teacher. It's okay to have both of those feelings at the same time, and being able to support your student through those and talk through those is really huge. And so being a parent's not an easy job. We definitely want parents to reach out and get support from the school. If they need extra support, the FACE Community Hubs is a great resource within DPS that can provide extra access to community supports. I would also say that mental health and making sure that parents are healthy and students are healthy is important whether we're in the school day or not. And so knowing that there's community resources like the Colorado Crisis Service Line or Safe to Tell if you have concerns that you need to report after hours to the school. And then September is also National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And so I did just want to share that there is a National Suicide Hotline number, 988, that we would encourage people to call if they're having any thoughts about self-harm or suicide or know someone that is.
Libby, I want to thank you for coming on today to talk about the mental health resources that we have in general. Perhaps maybe in another podcast episode, we could talk a little bit about what happens when there's crisis here at Denver Public Schools, that some folks might need mental health services, which I want to remind everyone that is available. You don't have to wait until the next episode to hear more about that. If you have a need, you need resources, please connect with your school immediately, with your school administrators. There is help, there is resources. And that concludes our EDUCA DPS podcast for today. I want to thank our repeat guest, Libby Malone, for this very insightful information. We would like to ask our audience to please share this episode of our EDUCA DPS podcast with relatives, friends, and our DPS community. You might have found something that's really important or useful for yourself, and so will the DPS community. For this and more DPS multimedia productions and content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Denver Public Schools Plus. We are also on all of the main podcast platforms. Simply do a search for the Denver Public Schools podcast. We want to thank our communications department and our proud superintendent of Denver Public Schools, Dr. Alex Marrero, for their support to EDUCA and all of our multimedia productions. Please remember to tell your children more often, I believe in you and I know you can do it. Until next time.